She thought it was just another rusted vehicle forgotten by time. But when 26-year-old mechanic Marley Quinn bought an old ice cream truck for scrap, she didn't expect to find a hidden compartment welded beneath the floorboards, or the torn envelope inside it marked, "Do not trust anyone." What she uncovered next didn't just threaten her safety. It made her the key to exposing a crime that had gone unsolved for 30 years. Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from. And if you love stories where ordinary people uncover extraordinary truths, hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow's episode might just top this one. The morning fog still clung to the trees when Marley Quinn pulled into the dirt lot just outside Harlan County. She'd followed a flyer to a small storage auction on the edge of town, one of those dusty, half-forgotten places where old vehicles came to die. Her boots crunched over gravel as she made her way past rows of battered sedans and sun-bleached RVs. At the far end, covered in vines and regret, sat an ice cream truck that looked like it had been pulled from a swamp. Faded pink paint, a smiling cartoon cone still clinging to the side, and tires so flat they melted into the earth. No one was bidding on it, not even the scrap guys. Marley tilted her head. "You're an eyesore," she muttered. The auctioneer noticed her interest and laughed. "That one? Been here 12 years. Belonged to a guy who vanished in '94. The truck just sat there till the storage company claimed it. We don't got keys, and we're not liable for what's inside." Marley didn't know what made her raise her hand. Maybe it was the way the sunlight hit the windshield just right. Maybe it was the memory of her dad, always dragging home things with stories no one else could hear. Whatever it was, 10 minutes later, she was the owner of one very rusted mystery. She had it towed to her shop, a converted gas station with 2 bays, a soda machine that ate quarters, and a cat named Torque, who slept under the radiator bench. Marley stood in front of the truck, arms crossed, engine quiet. The driver's door barely opened. Inside, it smelled like old grease and forgotten sugar. The freezer unit in the back was caved in, insulation scattered like cotton candy guts. The soft chime that once played through speakers was now a ghostly warble, if touched just right. She took photos for reference, tagged the frame with chalk notes, and made a plan to gut it the next day. But as she swept the floor, something under the vinyl gave a hollow thunk. Not a soft patch or rust pocket. Something deliberate. She knelt, pressed her ear to the floor, and tapped again. Thunk, thunk. Her brow furrowed. "You've got secrets, don't you?" By nightfall, she had removed 2 freezer panels and a rusted compressor. And that's when she saw it, a panel of the floor that didn't match the others, welded clean, reinforced from below. Carefully, she grabbed her angle grinder. Sparks flew, metal groaned, and beneath it, a shallow cavity wrapped in canvas. Inside was a weathered envelope, and scrawled in red marker, "Do not trust anyone." The envelope felt damp, the paper warped from years of sweat and freezer air. Marley stood there in the half-lit garage, heart knocking against her ribs, unsure if she should even open it. Torque meowed from his perch, tail flicking like a metronome of warning. Marley peeled the flap slowly. Inside, she found 3 things. An old photo of a man in a soda jerk uniform standing beside the ice cream truck, a laminated driver's ID, and a folded sheet of paper marked with creases deep as scars. The photo was blurry, sun-faded, but the man's eyes were distinct, sharp, cautious, like someone who always watched exits. The ID badge named him as Dennis Kroll, issued June 1993 by a now-defunct company called Polar Cone Express. Marley had never heard of it. She unfolded the paper. It was a route map, hand-drawn in blue ink. 7 locations, all gas stations or roadside rest stops, marked with dates. One line at the bottom made her breath hitch. Final drop, do not deviate. She's watching. It made no sense. But Marley couldn't shake the feeling she'd stumbled into something more than abandoned dessert dreams. She flipped the badge. Written on the back, almost invisible. Ask Jean about 93. Jean. The name clanged in her head like a loose bolt. Her dad used to talk about a Jean, old friend from his trucking days. Paranoid, ex-military, Used to drop off spare parts late at night, stay for coffee, vanish again. Marley ran to the back of the shop and dug through a box of her father's notebooks. The entries were chaotic, part repair logs, part diary, part conspiracy corkboard. She scanned pages until she saw it. July 1993. Jean says Dennis is in deep. Something about diamonds? I told him not to bring that mess near the shop. He didn't listen. Her stomach turned. Diamonds? It was absurd. Movie stuff. But this wasn't a movie. This was her life. And that truck was sitting in her garage like a loaded secret, waiting to go off. She paced for a while, read the note again, then circled the first date on the route map. Tomorrow she'd drive there, see what was still around. Maybe it was just an old delivery sheet. Maybe Dennis was just a guy who liked mystery novels and bad ideas. But maybe not. That night, Marley locked the truck bay for the first time in 5 years. She went to bed with a wrench under her pillow and the photo of Dennis pinned beside the shop's clock. Whatever this was, she'd already started peeling back the rust. And rust had a way of revealing things that were never meant to see light again. The gas station at the top of the route list was 30 minutes out on County 12, a forgotten stretch of road barely paved and barely legal. Marley pulled up in her old El Camino, the morning sun cutting through layers of pine like a blade through fog. The gas station still stood, though it was more ghost than business now, a single pump, boarded windows, and a sagging awning that looked ready to surrender to gravity. She stepped inside what used to be the office, her boots echoing on warped tile. Dust covered everything. But behind the old counter, on a pegboard of faded receipts and curled Polaroids, she found a name that stopped her breath cold. Crawl. D. A delivery slip. Frozen goods. July 7, 1993. Same date. Same route. She took a photo of it with her phone. As she turned to leave, a voice startled her. "You're not the first to come asking." Marley spun. An older man stood in the doorway. Baseball cap, cracked glasses, oil-stained jeans. His eyes scanned her like a checklist. "Excuse me? About the truck," he said. "You bought it, didn't you?" Her hand hovered near her hip, where her multi-tool rested. "Who are you?" "Name's Hal. I used to work here when Dennis ran his route. He was a good guy, quiet, showed up, made his drops, went home. Then one day, he didn't." "What happened?" Hal stepped inside, pulled a bent cigarette from his shirt. "Vanished. Cops called it a runaway, but me and Jean knew better." That name again. "Jean. You know Jean?" Hal's face twitched like a broken circuit. "Everyone in the old circuit knew Jean. He was the one who told us not to talk." "Why?" Hal lit the cigarette, then exhaled. "Because the diamonds weren't the only thing in that truck." Marley's skin prickled. "What else was in there?" she asked. Hal looked toward the tree line, as if someone might be watching. "A body. That's what the rumor was. Or maybe a witness. Something too valuable to leave behind." Her mind reeled. She'd expected a mystery. A smuggling ring, maybe. But murder? Hal dropped the cigarette, crushed it with his boot. "You opened a door, girl. If you're smart, you'll close it. Fast." But Marley didn't drive home. She sat in her El Camino and stared at the picture of Dennis again. The lines around his eyes. The slight lean in his shoulders. The look of a man already in too deep. She whispered to herself, "What the hell did you get caught in?" And then she circled the second stop on the map, because she couldn't stop now. Not when someone had tried so hard to bury the truth. 3 days after Marley found the envelope, a man in a Navy windbreaker walked into her garage just before closing time. He wasn't local that much. It was clear. His shoes were too clean. His shirt collar pressed too sharp. And his eyes scanned everything too fast, like he was memorizing it. "Hey there," he said, easy smile, no warmth behind it. "Heard you bought a truck from the old quail storage lot." Marley didn't stop what she was doing. She kept polishing the distributor cap on a '78 Camaro. "Word travels fast." "Small town," he said. "Mind if I take a look at it?" She looked up. "I do, actually." The man's smile twitched. "Fair enough. Just figured I'd ask. I'm a collector. Always looking for unique pieces." "You don't look like a collector," He tilted his head, considering her. "And you don't look like someone who'd pay good money for a freezer full of mold." Marley stood up and set the cap down. "You got a name, collector?" "Jensen," he said too quickly. She nodded. "Well, Jensen, the truck's not for sale. I didn't ask if it was." He stepped forward, gaze sharp now. "Just curious. Anything unusual in there? Hidden compartments? Documents? Sometimes the weirdest stuff ends up tucked away. Just rat nests and melted popsicle sticks." He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Shame." Marley stepped closer. "You sure you're a collector? Not law enforcement?" He pulled out a card. Just a white rectangle with the word Providence Imports and a phone number. "If you change your mind," he said, backing out the door. She watched him cross the street and step into a black SUV. The windows were tinted too dark for legal limits. That night, she parked her El Camino inside the shop, something she hadn't done in months. She double-locked the truck bay, installed a sensor cam on the roof, and slept with the envelope under her pillow. Whoever Jensen was, he wasn't interested in restoring history. He wanted it erased. Marley waited until sunrise before tearing deeper into the ice cream truck. She'd cleared out most of the freezer's interior, but something still felt wrong, like the truck was holding its breath. She focused on the wall paneling near the wheel well, an area too thick for normal insulation. She removed a dozen rusted screws and pulled the sheet metal back. Tucked inside was a second route sheet, but this one had stains. Dull, brown, long-dried. Blood. She froze. The stains weren't fresh, maybe decades old, but they were undeniable. She snapped a photo, then carefully unwrapped the paper. Alongside the route sheet were diagrams. Mechanical layouts of the truck's interior but modified. Custom freezer walls. Insulated false flooring. A hidden storage bin above the compressor. She hadn't seen that one yet. With her flashlight, she crawled under the freezer's support beam and found the lip of metal above her head. She pressed gently, and the panel gave way. Inside was a velvet pouch. Her hands shook as she pulled it out. She unknotted the cord. Inside, glittering even in the dim light, were 3 uncut diamonds. Raw, untouched, real. Marley sank to the floor. Her breath came short. It was true. All of it. The stories her dad half believed. The envelope's warnings, Hal's cryptic words, and somewhere, someone knew she had found them. Torque jumped from a shelf, startling her. She stuffed the pouch in her tool chest, locked it, and leaned against the wall. "Okay," she whispered. "Now what?" She couldn't go to the police. Not yet. Not without answers. And not when a man like Jensen was already sniffing around. She opened her dad's old notebook again, flipped through pages until she found another familiar scribble. Dennis vanished after July 14th. Jean disappeared a week later. Truck storage paid through $1,997. After that, silence. Marley grabbed her keys. She had one more stop on the route map, and this time, she wasn't going alone. Marley pulled into the back lot of an old mechanics guild hall, now just a rusted-out barn and a half-fallen sign that once read, Quinn, Son's Auto. Her father had worked here when she was little, before moving his tools to the shop she now ran. She hadn't been back in years. The door creaked when she pushed it open. Dust and silence welcomed her. She wasn't here for nostalgia. She was here for the safe. In the back corner, behind a stack of rotted tires and busted toolboxes, was a metal floor hatch she remembered from childhood. Her father used to keep it padlocked, said it held the heavy stuff. She pried the rusted latch with a crowbar and opened the door. Inside was a fireproof box, untouched. The key still hung on the nail just above it. She opened it. Inside, more notebooks, tapes, a microcassette recorder with a faded label. Jean interview, 1994. Her hands trembled as she pressed play. Static. Then her father's voice. "All right, Jean. Just say it how you told me." A different voice responded gravelly, shaking. "They used the truck, Quinn. Dennis thought it was just diamonds. But I saw her, I swear it, bound, gagged, in the freezer, and then gone." Her blood ran cold. "I told him to walk away. Said the money wasn't worth it. But he said she was leverage, that someone high up wanted her kept quiet. The tape popped, then more static, and then silence. Marley sat down hard. This wasn't about smuggling anymore. It was about people, about lives stolen and silenced. She rewound the tape and played it again, because this time, she needed to hear every word. She returned to her shop at dusk. The front door was cracked open. Marley froze. She always locked it. Always. Inside, her stomach sank. Her tool chest was rifled through. Her wall safe pried, but unopened. Torque hissed from atop the fridge. On the back wall, spray painted in red, "You were warned." Her throat dried. She backed out, called the sheriff. When they arrived, they took photos, asked questions, but shrugged. No prints, no forced entry. She didn't mention the diamonds, or the tape, or the map. The sheriff said it was likely kids. She knew better. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat at the shop, shotgun across her knees, eyes on the driveway. Someone was watching, and she needed to find Jean before they found her. She found Jean in a trailer off County Line Road, half drunk and still wearing the same trucker hat from 20 years ago. He didn't recognize her at first, but when she said her father's name, he let her in. "I told him not to dig," he said. "Now you're here doing the same." She laid the photo on the table. "This man, Dennis, did he know what was going on?" Jean stared at the photo. "He was scared, said he got caught up moving something for someone named Rochelle, thought it was a side hustle. Never knew there was a girl in that truck until it was too late." "A girl?" Jean nodded. "Witness to something. They called her the insurance policy." "Who was Rochelle?" Jean looked up. "No one you want to cross. She ran things quiet. Old money. Disappeared after 95. Whole operation shut down." "And the diamonds?" Jean snorted. "Just payment. Pretty distraction." Marley sat back. Everything shifted. It wasn't about money. It was about silencing someone who knew too much. And now that secret was back on the surface. Because Marley had found the truck. Marley returned to the shop and pulled the entire freezer apart, down to its bones. Behind the insulation, she found one last relic. A child's shoe, size 5, faded pink. Stuffed in the compressor cavity like someone had tried to erase it. She sat on the floor and wept. The story wasn't just buried. It had been erased. She called the cold case division and gave them everything: the map, the pouch, the shoe, the tape. She didn't want fame. She wanted justice. 2 weeks later, a detective knocked on her door. They found DNA on the shoe. Matched a girl who went missing in 1993. Her name was Leila Moreau, age 11, never seen again, until now. The truck was no longer a mystery. It was a memorial. Marley sanded it down, repainted it. Pale blue, not pink. No cartoons, just a gold plaque on the back. In memory of the truth that wouldn't stay buried. She restored it not to sell, but to testify. At the trial, her evidence cracked open a 30-year silence. Rochelle was found, living under a new name in Arizona. The diamonds had funded her escape. The girl? She'd never been seen again. But her name was spoken now, because Marley spoke it. And in the end, the rusted ice cream truck hadn't just held secrets, it held a story that deserved to be told. And Marley Quinn, grease-stained, stubborn and brave, made sure it was. The end.